If you clicked on this video thinking that the very first thing I was gonna do was show you whether or not the Fender Tone Master Pro features a drippy, surfy, splashy reverb, then you'd be absolutely correct, because obviously that's exactly what I'm going to do. What else did you expect from me? That's all you expect from me, and that's all you should expect from me. I'm also gonna do a little dive into some various amp models and show those off, and then show off a few presets that I've made that get wild and weird and wacky and creative and wonderful and awful. And then I'm gonna experiment hitting it with a real analog fuzz to see how it handles that. And then who knows what other trouble I'm gonna get into. But first, time lapse. I'm going to start off with my American Vintage 2 Jazzmaster, recently modified with an off-Kiltertron pickup in the bridge position from our friend Mel over at Alameda Guitars. And of course, I'm not going to be running into the Two Princetons rig. I'm going to do a virtual Two Princetons rig later, and I'll give you the jingle then. I know you want the jingle. You're going to have to be patient and wait. But for now, we're running direct into my field recorder, and you're going to hear the drippy, surfy reverbs that I have planned for you, because obviously that's what I'm gonna do. So first, you can see we've got a completely blank situation here. No amps, no effects, no nothing. I'm gonna add a block, and we're gonna select an amplifier. I'm gonna go with the 65 Deluxe Reverb amp only, because I want you to see that there's no reverb setting on this amplifier. We're just gonna be using the drippy, surfy reverb. The reverb that comes in this amplifier is drippy too, and also sounds fantastic. But I want you to see that pure surfy, drippy splash. So let's adjust this a little bit. I'm gonna dial it in to be a little bit cleaner at 3. Here, I'll show you what it's set starting out. Turn it down there. I just want that clean sound. I'm also gonna adjust the amp level. You might have noticed I'm twisting the foot switches here. The foot switches are knobs, and they get assigned to whatever is on the model that you're tweaking. So you don't have to do touchscreen stuff. I mean, you can do touchscreen stuff, but it's so much more natural and so much more satisfying to just grab a knob and twist it. No jokes. All right, I'm gonna tweak the bass a little bit more low end and a little bit more high end. Sounds good, nice and hollow. And now, what we've all been waiting for, the reverb. Now you might have noticed that I published this video well after the launch date for the Tone Master Pro. That's mostly because I got it in the mail late. It showed up a few days before the launch date, and I'm like, I'm not gonna rush it. I'm gonna take my time. I'm gonna learn this product so that I can correctly demonstrate it. And I'm glad I did that. I'm glad I waited, because on the day of the launch, they released the firmware update, and it came with the exact reverb that I wanted. I'll show you the already legacy reverb that came before the firmware update. Here it is, 63 spring reverb. It's not bad. It's better than a lot of other modelers have, I'll say that. But compared to a lot of other modern products that I have that do the drippy reverb thing, I was a bit disappointed. But then that firmware update dropped, and they gave us the 63 spring reverb convolution. Listen to this. There it is. That's me just turning it on. That's not adjusting the settings at all. But let's have a look at this. You get a visual representation of a Fender outboard 6G15 reverb unit. It comes set up noon all the way across the board. That mix is really, really rich. On a real unit, I would probably have it set up kind of like 777 basically. You can hear how rich that reverb mix is. So I'm gonna pull it back a bit. At about almost 4 is still plenty. I think that sounds pretty good. Let's check out some of the other drippy reverbs they have. That's right, it's not the only one. They also have an in-amp style reverb that has a drip that you can place anywhere in your signal chain. The 65 spring reverb convolution. If you want that Fender drip, but you want to add it to like a Marshall model, you can do it. Now that's much, much, much closer to an in-amp style reverb. It's exactly what it's trying to be. But let's try just removing this completely. And we'll swap out the amp for the regular deluxe reverb that will have the reverb built in. And there it is. It's in the amp as well. And all the Fender amp models in the Tone Master Pro that have a drippy style reverb, like classically in the physically represented tube amp version of the amp, has a drippy reverb in it. Made these reverbs just for me. They can't be for anyone else, right? They're just for me. So let's start looking at the other amps that are in here, and then I'll get into some of my presets and stuff like that. We've got a whole list of amplifiers here, and a fun thing is that while you're scrolling through the list, when you select a different amplifier, you can make tweaks to all the settings from the pedal board with the knobs. So you can, like, you don't have to just be like, oh, well, that preset sounds fine, I'll tweak it later. You can be like, oh, what does that sound like low gain? What does it sound like with the mids pushed or pulled and stuff like that? It's a really great user interface. There's like a pleasure factor to the user interface of the Tone Master that I really, really appreciate. Like, it feels so natural and so just easy to use. I never had to pull up the manual to figure out where anything is. It's all just so apparent and obvious. I will have criticisms later on, things that could be better, but I am pretty impressed with this unit. Okay, there is a 59 Bassman that came with that firmware update. Maybe I should switch to the Strat. Let's have a look at this amp here. It's actually jumper cabled in between the normal and the bright channel. I think they need to put 2 more models in here. One that's got the bright channel and one that has the normal channel. I mean, you can dial them out. Maybe that's what you're supposed to do. And mix them however you want. some other amps. The Princeton, of course. It sounds good, but what if there was two? We already did the deluxe. There is the super reverb. You turn the reverb all the way up. Yeah, it's gonna be a super reverb. Try it with the gain up. Twin reverb. Very clean, 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 bright sounds. And then we get into some other stuff. We've got the Bass Breaker series. Medium gain here. A Blues Junior. Vibro King, a dream amp for me. I've always wanted to have a Vibro King. That's the one with a 310 speaker cap. So weird and so funky. Put the fat on. We've got a couple Voxes. A Marksman Channel 1. Modeled after a Mesa amplifier. A JC Clean, of course, you gotta have that. Solid state model in your tube modeling product here. British Plexi. There's a bunch of British, like Marshall-y stuff in here. We've got a Friedman style FBE 100. I really don't dabble in these sounds, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on them. We've got some Eddie Van Halen settings here. There's the Marksman Channel 2. And of course, double rack. And you gotta have an Uber to get you where you're going. Also, you've got piles and piles of effects here. They don't have all the effects yet. There's some key ones they're missing, and I'll get into that later. But they've got a lot. They've got all the important classic ones here. Oh man, just plenty. There's plenty to work with. Let's get into some of my presets, and I'll show those off. So my first preset is, of course, a surf preset, because I can't help myself, right? one is fun because I took a twin reverb head, there's the settings right there, and I ran them into 2 different cabs. The first cab is a 1x1265 deluxe cream back with an SM57 as the microphone. And the next cab is that 3x10 Vibro King with a ribbon mic on it. I love combining amps and cabs to get this kind of like in the middle sort of sound. They fill in the holes, the parts of the EQ filtering that each speaker is missing gets filled in by the next one, and you get this chimera, this hybrid sound that I think is just fantastic. It's honestly what I do if I'm able to on every modeler that I get. I love combining amps and speakers in stereo and parallel and stuff like that. These are slightly stereo. There is a mixer right here. You can see I've got a pan of 10 and -10 on each cab just to give it a little bit of like a physical space in my headphones. Other things in the patch, I've got a tube bias tremolo, which by the way, I've connected to my expression pedal here. The expression pedal, which you'll see or hear a lot in this video. I don't have a camera down there because I'm barefoot right now. I've got the expression pedal connected to the intensity of the trim, so I can blend it in and out whenever I want. And it's super easy to do all kinds of fun expressive settings. Like I'll show you what I've got going on here. There it is, tube bias trim. The parameters are right there. Heel is 0, toe is 59. Same for like all the preset stuff down here. Foot switch assign. You can see I've got a bunch of stuff assigned. I've got a tube amp and a tube amp drive push, a second preset for the tube amp, and I have a momentary switch for the tremolo. I'll show you that next. If I just want it quickly here and there. Here is that tube overdrive. To get me that loose, gritty, like Link Ray sound. And then I'll show you that boost that I have here. It boosts the drive level. To some other presets. I could sit here and just do surfy stuff all day, but you don't want to hear that, right? Right? Maybe one more thing. I'll just jam a little bit more and then we'll move on to the other presets just because I'm having fun. I want the Jazzmaster back. I'm excited about that reverb. I'm excited that there is a multi-effect processor, a floorboard thing, an amp modeler, an effect modeler, that caters to the exact sounds that I nerd out over, that I love. Like it's built around these Fender amps and these Fender products, the Fender reverbs. I love it. I'm so happy to have this thing. I really am. I need to add a tape echo to this preset. I almost did it. I almost nailed it. Then I had to go and mess up, didn't I? All right, on to other presets. And I'll go back to the Strat as well. Here's a fun one. Let's do this one next. What I've built here is a collection of momentary and expressive effects. At the beginning of the chain, I've got a feedback generator. Set up to be momentary. And then I've got a pedal shifter, a whammy, connected to the expression pedal, of course. And then up next, we've got their version of a big muff. Here we go. Oh. Which I'll be shooting out later on against an analog fuzz pedal. Then the amplifier is that Marksman Channel 1. I pretty much did nothing to that. I was just like, oh, that sounds like a nice, clean, pedal platform. I'll throw that in there. Then we have a deluxe Remember Guy situation here. And I have this set up in a really interesting way. You can see I can turn it on and off here. But then I've got memory up that ramps up the time or down the time. It shortens the time and it maxes out the feedback, and memory down that increases the time and maxes out the feedback. And I like the way they do that spaceship-y thing. I wonder if I could control the time with the expression pedal. Let's try that right now. This is not rehearsed. I don't know what's about to happen. So expression assign, we'll add it right there. Time, here we go. Oh man, 30 milliseconds all the way up to 1,000. Let's get a little bit more conservative, and we'll start out at 302, and then the toe will do double to get that octave. 602, confirm. All right, let's see what happens. I'll turn off the pedal shifter. There you are. It works. You can do it. It'd be fun to have another expression pedal to control the feedback. Stuff like that gets me excited for systems like this. Let's max out the feedback manually. There you are. I like that. I have this stereo delay. It's a ping pong delay, but I have it with a maxed out feedback and a really short time on it. And part of my setting on here is that it's momentary, and when I release it, it zeroes out that feedback so that the same note is not repeating the next time I touch it. So it's basically like a custom sustainer thing. But this glitchy stereo custom sustainer. And then the very last thing in the chain is a momentary orbit pan. Because you got to make people seasick, right? I like to combine this with that. What next? I've got a whole patch for stereo fun, because of course I do. So I've got two different amplifiers with two different cabs and different mic settings. At the top, we've got this British Jubilee Clean with a 4x12 cab. And at the bottom, we have that Vibro King with a 3x10 cab. And then before them, I've got what I call Fizz, which happens to be a Tube Screamer and a Nobles style overdrive here. So two green fizzy boxes going into two different amps. I can turn that off. Here's just the amps. Full stereo spread on this. 100% each direction. I didn't go gentle with this one. Sounds great. At the end of the chain, I have a small hall reverb on. There it is without it. track. I've got a whammy because why not? This is not the same whammy effect. This is actually a delay pitch shifter, but I have the delay time all the way down. Next up is a chorus. Or what is it? What? Oh, I've got that orbit in there. Going into the amplifier, so it's affecting like the amount of the gain from those pedals and the amps. It's like a roundabout way of doing a gain-based, like Leslie sort of sound. These are all out of order. Oh my gosh. Okay, this is silly. I've got stereo wahs. There are two different wahs. One is a vocal wah, and the other is a teardrop wah. And I have slightly different settings on them, different speeds. So one of them hits the toe position before the other. It's very subtle, but it feels a little bit different, a little bit more interesting in the headphone mix. Then what's next? A chorus, because of chorus. Then there is a delay, an echo delay. And a great big spacious shimmery reverb. Oh, what else? I should probably do this thing, and then I'll do two Princetons, and then we'll throw an analog fuzz at this. Hello. So, the Tone Master Pro has an XLR input. I'll turn off the reverb for now. That allows you to run a microphone into it or anything else that uses an XLR, and you can add effects and do some processing and EQ and whatever you want to do. Really, they don't have vocal specific effects in there yet. I really hope that eventually they do. It'd be great if they had some sort of pitch correcting thing, vocal harmonies, stuff like that. For the time being, you can use the guitar effects, or you can run through amplifiers and speaker cabs and stuff like that if you want to. There is a way to upload impulse responses, so maybe there's vocal impulse responses that you want to use. Right now, I'm running into a treble booster, because why not? Why not run your voice into a treble booster? A studio compressor, and then let's turn this on.
We've got a pitch shifter, and I've got it connected to, oh, I thought I did. Do I not have it connected to the expression? Let's do that right now. All right, here we go. You can see how to do this. Confirm. Position.
And there
we go. All right. Oh my gosh. I'm going to get myself in trouble with this one. Then next up, the ping pong delay. Oh, yeah. That sounds nice. And then turn that
reverb back on, because why not? On the guitar side, I'm just running a Princeton that's a little bit dirty, and it has some reverb and trim going on. There's all sorts of different ways to set up the signal flow here. You go to preset settings, click that, and you can see there's all sorts of different signal paths that you can select from. Oh my gosh, look at that. Instrument, mic line, mix 3. What is going on? There's a lot going on there. Jeez. I've got instrument plus mic line in series to get this very simple loadout. This is where people are tuning out and leaving the video because this sounds super annoying. Should I try to sing something? I'll try to sing something. Sometimes I feel like I need a vacation. Sometimes I feel like I wanna go to the city of cavemen, city of bedrock. I'd be a Flintstone, now I'll tell you why. Now with more pitch. Are you glad I did that? Do you feel like your life was enriched by me singing through a pitch shifter? Here we go. 2 Princetons are simulated right before me, baby. That's what I said now. You're about to get your fix. Now, I don't know if you know this or have realized this, but I have 2 Princetons that I use in almost all my demos. You can see one right there and the other one right there. And I run them in parallel or I run them in stereo. And something you need to know is that they're not the exact same Princeton. They have slightly different speakers. They're slightly different models. And so when I simulate them, I like to use different speaker cabs and different mic arrangements and stuff like this. This is the first one, the 65 Princeton amp only. And go back to that. It's just got the standard 1x10 Princeton with a ribbon mic on it. And then the other one has a different cab. It has the 1x12 deluxe cab on it. And I've got the ribbon on it as well because on my 2 Princetons rigs, I use a pair of Cascade Fathead ribbon mics. So this is the sound it gives us. I am on the neck pickup. And I gotta say, I think it does it. It sounds very, very familiar to me. It sounds like the 2 Princetons. While I was building this patch, I was like, why stop here? Why just simulate my amps, why not simulate my entire pedal board? So that's what I ended up doing. I've got representations of all the pedals I tend to keep on my personal pedal board here. First off, we'll start with the 250-ish is what I labeled this foot switch. They don't have an official 250 model on here. Maybe they will in the future, but they have a Distortion Plus style overdrive, which is from the same family of overdrive circuits. It's close enough, right? And I've got it dialed in to do what I like a 250 to do. These settings don't look like my 250s at all. I tend to keep the distortion at 50%. But that sounds like 50% on a 250. It's got that light, crispy, loose grit thing going on. It's warm with plenty of mid character to it, but like spiky, bright highs. That's what I like. I can get that sound here. Also in the chain, I've got a Noble style Nashville OD. Which is something I keep on my board commonly before my 250 to add distortion and heft. And then of course, I have an octave fuzz. This is not the octave setting. But I do have the octave setting hiding down here that I can turn on anytime I want. They did a pretty good job on the fuzzes for the Tone Master Pro. Fuzzes are really hard. They're a really difficult thing to nail in modeling, and they didn't do a perfect job, but I feel pretty good about what they did do. Next up, of course, I've got a drippy reverb. Have you noticed a theme? I tend to like drippy reverbs. I've got a D-delay, which is what I call this little button here. This is their digital delay. I've got this set up to give me my DD3 sounds. I'm a big time lover of the Boss DD3. This gets me close enough. What else do I have? I've got a shimmer reverb to replicate my my Chase Bliss Dark World. It doesn't do what the Dark World does, but it's getting me in that neighborhood. And then, of course, I've got a tremolo. my best here. I'm not playing perfect, but we're gonna get to the end of the video, I promise you. All right. Next thing, the fuzz thing. I know that there are modelers out there that don't handle being hit by an analog fuzz well. So I'm gonna run this Earthquaker Devices Hizumitis? I always forget exactly how it's supposed to be pronounced. Into the front of this patch here. And then I'm gonna run it into the loop. Just to show you there's a couple different ways to run a fuzz into this thing. And both ways sound good. So what we have here is 2 amps, because why not? Split into stereo. We've got a deluxe reverb with a 1x12 deluxe cabinet. And then we have another deluxe reverb with another 1x12 deluxe cabinet. I don't remember if I was doing anything different here. I just decided to stack amps in stereo for some reason. I think this one has a different mic. I don't remember. It doesn't matter at this point. But we've got a spring reverb on one side, and then we've got the small hall on the other. So first, let's listen to the built-in fuzz, the Big Green. This is their version of a Russian Big Muff. I actually think it sounds pretty dang good. Yeah, really not bad at all. But it is still a digital model of a fuzz, and like I said earlier, I think fuzz is something that digital still hasn't quite completely captured. I know this is not a true Russian Big Muff, but don't get too hung up on that. Listen to the EQ range, listen to the gain qualities and stuff like that. I think they got the gain quality with the model. I think they got a fuzzy gain quality, but there's something about the EQ that's just a bit different and doesn't hit quite the same as this. There's like richer harmonics in that distortion. But the important point here is that actually sounds freaking great into the Tone Master Pro. It doesn't sound like it's being filtered weird or anything like that. It doesn't sound like there's any sort of weird impedance things happening. That sounds the way a fuzz should sound running into an amplifier. I'll try tweaking the tone a little bit and a few other settings to get closer, but I've already done all that and I know it's not going to be exact. Still, that model ain't bad. That's pretty great. So what next? Is that it? Oh, I wanted to run it into the loop. That's right. Spoilers, it's gonna sound pretty much the same. But it's an opportunity to show off the loop characteristics of the Tone Master Pro here. I have a loop switch right here. I'll leave you with that weird, unsettling, unappealing chord. So what did you guys think? I like it. I like it quite a bit, actually. And I think there's a lot that other people are gonna like about it. Put it back on the surf setting just so I can look at it. I mean, number one, I love that drip, baby. I love that they gave me a drippy reverb. I'd totally gig with that reverb sound. Are you kidding me? It sounded fantastic. Great job, Fender. Thank you for that firmware update on the launch after all the other YouTubers filmed their videos. But that there's a great reverb in all the amps as well. And I'm sure I'm the only person who really cares about the outboard spring reverb sound. The Fender amp models sound fantastic to me. They sound, you know, like this is a Tone Master Pro. They're taking the amp models from the physical amps that they've been building from the Tone Master series and putting them in a floorboard. And I got to shoot out a tube super reverb against one of the Tone Master super reverbs, and I was impressed. I was impressed with them in a physical space right in front of me. They did things a little bit differently, but I was still really impressed with the Tone Master. You have to consider the Tone Master stuff as Tone Master stuff. It's not a complete replacement for the tube stuff, but a Tone Master super reverb, twin reverb, deluxe, Princeton, it has merit. And they've put those sounds in here, and I think they sound great. I think they're really compelling. And I've had a bunch of other modelers that do Fender sounds, but I feel like I'm always having to trick things. I'm always having to throw an EQ in there or adjust bias or get really creative with the speakers and the miking and stuff like that to get myself as close as I'm getting just with the standard sound here. Like out of the gate, if you are someone who chases Fender amp sounds, like they're doing it. Some cons. Let's talk about some cons. Let's be realistic here. This is a new unit in the market. They don't have 3 different eras of legacy patches and models and effects and tweaky little things built into this. They have one legacy thing because they have the legacy reverbs in there. There's a lot of room to grow. There definitely is. There's a lot of amp models they don't have. They're not covering the entire gamut of all amp models ever. They're focused on specializing with the launch of this. Hopefully, Fender stays on top of updating the Tone Master Pro and keeps delivering firmware updates that give you more and more toys to play with. You can do an IR loader. You can load your own impulse responses. Let me remember how to get to that. There it is. There's the IR stuff right there. I think you have to plug into a laptop to load your IRs, but this is where they would be if I had them, which I don't. But but you've got amps, half stacks, amp heads, cabinets, effects. You've got all kinds of stuff here. FX loops. There's all sorts of things to mess around with. Effects that it's missing. It has a lot of classic, very powerful, very well-known effects, essential effects, but it's missing quite a few things. Like it's missing envelope filters. I haven't found any envelope filters in there. That would be a great addition, especially with all the tweaky stereo and blendy and like momentary things that you can trigger with the foot switches and whatnot. Acoustic simulators, an acoustic suite across the board would be a great addition for people who are going to do the singer-songwriter thing. They're going to plug in a mic, they're going to sing into it, they're going to play their acoustic guitar and loop it and do all that sort of creative stuff and throw effects on it. There should be acoustic effects or acoustic like filtering effects, like preamp effects and things like that. And there should be vocal effects eventually. Like there's room for all these things to be added to round this out, to become the unit that I know it can be, because there's a lot going on here. It's a really solid unit with a ton of ins and outs on the back. I can't lift it up because it's all plugged in, but there's a ton of stuff going on the back here that would make it a solve all problems sort of device for all the musicians out there, whether they play electric, I mean, bass stuff, bass amps and cabs and effects and things like that. This could appeal to the bassists out there, bassists, acoustic guitars, vocalists. That's what's missing from here. And then, you know, some key guitar amps and key effect pedals and things like that. I'm sure the comments are full of people saying other things that they'd like to see in this unit. I'm sorry I didn't get deep into the high gain amps. That's really not my wheelhouse. And I think I would have underserved them. I scrolled through some of them, but I wouldn't have done as good a job as so many of the other YouTubers out there. So go watch their videos. I watched Andy's video, The Guitar Geek, and he played a Telecaster riff in there that made me, you know, it flared up my imposter syndrome. So go watch his video. He does some twangy riffing on a Telecaster that made me feel a little sick to my stomach and reminded me why I don't watch other people's videos before I film things. So anyways, huge thanks to Fender for sending this out to me. I've got some more stuff coming in from Fender. I do have the Fender FR12 powered cab that can be paired with this. The reason I didn't feature it is because I can't figure out how to mic it correctly. It's got a 12-inch speaker and it's got a little tweeter on it, and I was putting mics on both of them and it just sounded bad. I was doing tests and I was like, no, I can't show this. So I'm gonna have to spend some more time with that before I can show it off. But I will say that thing is beautiful and it's loud, and I love that it has the controls on the top and the jewel light. It has the full Fender visual experience. It has tilt back legs. As a Fender fanboy, they got me with that thing. It's beautiful. I love looking at it. It sounds great plugged into this, but I can't figure out how to capture it. Like it's an in-room sort of thing for me so far. So once I figure that out, I will try to cover that. I've been putting up beauty shots of it. Hopefully I remember to do that. Editing Ryan, get on it. But other than that, stay tuned. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, dislike, leave me rude, nasty comments. Support us on Patreon. Buy a shirt if you're naked, and stay grounded. Bye, everybody.